Audiobook Academy Biography presents John von Neumann. John János Neumann, better known as John von Neumann, was a Hungarian-born American mathematician who died in Washington, D.C., on February 8, 1957. As an adult, he added von to his surname. His father had been granted the hereditary title in 1913. By the time he was in his 30s, von Neumann had become one of the world's leading mathematicians. Set theory was a launching pad for a career that spanned practically all of mathematics. Because of his aptitude for applied mathematics, von Neumann's work influenced fields as diverse as quantum theory, automata theory, economics, and strategic planning for the defense of the nation. Claude Shannon and Alan Turing were two of the conceptual inventors of the digital computer's stored program model. Early years. For most of his life, von Neumann was raised in an affluent and well-integrated Jewish household. A banking father and a farm equipment dealer mother, Miksha and Margit Neumann, Max and Miksha Neumann, were the pillars of their family's success. When von Neumann was young, he was able to make jokes in classical Greek and recite phone numbers and addresses from the phone book as a family prank. The Lutheran Gymnasium, Budapest's most prominent secondary school, was where von Neumann learnt languages and mathematics from tutors. In 1919, the Neumann family escaped Bela Kun's short-lived communist state and lived in exile in Vienna and Abbația, now Opatia, Croatia, an Adriatic tourist town. According to von Neumann's father, there was not enough money in mathematics at the time of his graduation from secondary school in 1921. Von Neumann studied both chemistry and mathematics in order to find a middle ground between the two. He graduated from the Swiss Federal Institute of Zurich in 1925 with a degree in chemical engineering and the University of Budapest in 1926 with a PhD in mathematics. 1921 to 1930. At the height of David Hilbert's axiomatic foundations for mathematics, von Neumann began his career as an intellectual leader. Although it was published in 1923, von Neumann's paper on the introduction of transfinite ordinals, which provided the now conventional definition of an ordinal number, was written while he was still a student at the Lutheran school. In doing so, Georg Cantor's transfinite numbers are cleanly avoided in their complication. Hilbert himself was drawn to von Neumann's axiomatization of set theory, 1925. Von Neumann worked with Hilbert at Göttingen University from 1926 to 1927 as a postdoctoral fellow. Incompleteness theorems by Kurt Gödel prevented Hilbert and von Neumann from achieving their goal of axiomatizing mathematics. For further information on the mathematical basis of this term, see Gödel. In Berlin, 1927-29 and Hamburg, 1929-30, von Neumann served as a private lecturer. In von Neumann's book The Mathematical Foundations of Quantum Mechanics, 1932, quantum states are regarded as vectors in a Hilbert space as a result of their collaboration with Hilbert. Erwin Schrödinger and Werner Heisenberg's quantum mechanical theories were reconciled by this mathematical synthesis. In addition, von Neumann maintained that deterministic hidden variables cannot be the basis for quantum phenomena. Physicists were persuaded to accept quantum theory's indeterminacy after this significant result delighted Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg. While Albert Einstein refused to give up on his belief in determinism, the results of the experiment disappointed him. However, in the mid-1960s, Irish-born scientist John Stuart Bell showed that von Neumann's evidence was defective. Bell then addressed the proof's inadequacies, reinforcing von Neumann's conclusion that hidden variables were unneeded. See Quantum Mechanics, Hidden Variables for further information. Von Neumann was hailed as a genius at conferences by the time he was in his 20s. A mathematical power drop begins at age 26, according to him, but experience can mask it for a while. Von Neumann's contributions to logic, set theory, group theory, ergodic theory, and operator theory have been awe-inspiring. Hermann Goldstein and Eugene Wigner stated that von Neumann only failed to make a meaningful contribution in topology and number theory out of all the major fields of mathematics. Game theory's seminal paper, Theory of Parlor Games, by von Neumann was published in 1928. The game of poker served as the inspiration for this piece. The focus of game theory is on bluffing, which is different from chess's pure logic or roulette's probability theory. The Minimax Theorem, which von Neumann proved notwithstanding Borel's earlier work in the field, gave the subject mathematical reality. For every finite two-person zero-sum game, there is a rational outcome, in the sense that two fully logical adversaries can arrive at a mutual choice of game strategies, sure that they could not expect to perform better by selecting another strategy. There is also the von Neumann-Morgenstern theory and game theory. The best way to win at games like poker is to use a combination of strategy and luck. Bluffing is a necessary skill in poker if you want to avoid being taken advantage of by another player who is more experienced. 1930–42, Princeton. In 1929, Princeton University invited von Neumann to give a lecture on quantum theory. During the 1930s, he was hired as a visiting professor. His students recalled him as a lousy teacher who wrote on the chalkboard rapidly and erased it before they could copy what he had said. Mariette Coevacy was von Neumann's wife when they wed in 1930. Marina, the couple's only child, went on to become a well-known economist after graduating from Harvard Business School. Von Neumann joined the faculty of Princeton's Institute for Advanced Study, IAS, in 1933 as one of the institute's original professors. In 1933, the year that Adolf Hitler took power in Germany, von Neumann resigned from his academic positions in Germany. "If these boys continue for only 2 more years, they will damage German research for at least a generation," von Neumann remarked in a well-quoted criticism on the Nazi government. Second World War. J. Robert Oppenheimer invited von Neumann to assist on the Manhattan Project in late 1943. Expertise in hydrodynamics and shock waves, which he had previously used to chemical bombs in the British war effort, was von Neumann's specialty. Seth Nettermeyer's implosion design for an atomic bomb was worked on by von Neumann at Los Alamos, New Mexico. An implosion of a hollow ball of fissionable plutonium was required to achieve a critical mass. In order to avoid spilling any alcohol, the implosion has to be perfectly symmetrical. Based on James Tuck's suggestion, von Neumann calculated how to obtain the desired symmetry by using a lens of quicker and slower burning chemical explosives. This design was utilized in the Fat Man atomic bomb that was dropped on the Japanese port of Nagasaki. Von Neumann argued against bombing the Imperial Palace, Tokyo, as a Japanese target. From von Neumann's perspective, Theory of Games and Economic Behavior, 1944, published with Princeton economist Oscar Morgenstern, was the greatest opus of applied mathematics. Since the publication of Theory of Parlor Games by von Neumann in 1928, game theory has been left for dead, with no one furthering its development. The author's argument for game theory as the Newtonian science underpinning economic decisions grew to 641 pages in their partnership with Morgenstern. Economic game theory became popular after the publication of this book, although it has since waned. The hypothesis has influenced a wide range of subjects, from evolutionary biology to military strategy. Later life and evaluation. Von Neumann spent an increasing amount of time in the years following World War II working as a consultant for both the federal government and private companies. J. Presper Eckert Jr. and John W. Mauchly designed the Army's ENIAC computer in 1944, and Eckert and Mauchly incorporated his ideas into the design. It was von Neumann's modification of ENIAC to run as a stored program computer that was most significant. After that, he worked to get the Institute for Advanced Study to construct a better computer as a result of his efforts. ENIAC had utilized decimal numbers, but the EAS machine, which was operational in 1951 and used binary arithmetic, substantially facilitated conditional loops at the heart of all subsequent coding. Eckert and Mauchly, who wanted to patent their discoveries, were upset by von Neumann's publications on computer design in the years 1945–51, and this sparked the fabrication of comparable machines by individuals around the world. Using a single processor, a stored program computer known as a von Neumann machine was proven to be advantageous. Von Neumann's preliminary discussion and computer patent fights are also worth a look. One other significant consulting job was with the RAND Corporation, a think tank tasked with developing the U.S. Air Force's nuclear policy. Defense policy should incorporate game-theoretic thought, according to von Neumann. He was a proponent of the hydrogen bomb and urged for a preemptive nuclear strike against the Soviet Union's developing nuclear arsenal in the late 1940s or early 1950s. Edward Teller's Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, now the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, co-founders were too reactive, according to von Neumann, despite his hawkish posture. Von Neumann served on the Atomic Energy Commission from 1954 to 1956 and was a key architect of the administration of President Dwight D. Eisenhower's nuclear deterrent policy. The latter years of von Neumann's life were spent debating whether or not a machine could duplicate itself. It was von Neumann who first proposed the concept of self-replicating machines using an abstract mathematical model known as a cellular automaton. When the machine receives its genetic code, it translates it first into instructions for building the machine without the code and then into data. This is an important part of this demonstration. It then copies its own code to produce a fertile new machine from scratch. This work was conceptually ahead of its time in terms of genetics. In 1955, von Neumann was told he had bone cancer. Despite his increasingly deteriorating health, he kept working. He was awarded the Enrico Fermi Medal in 1956. Agnostic all his life, He converted to Roman Catholicism soon before he died. A genius, if that 18th-century adjective still has meaning, a man so sharp he saw through himself, said Paul Samuelson, an economist. After fleeing Hungary, von Neumann joined a group of Hungarians who went on to have successful careers in science in both Germany and the United States. A subliminal sensation of great insecurity in individuals and the necessity of producing the unique or face extinction, is what von Neumann's buddy Stanislaw Ulam attributed to this Hungarian occurrence. Co-workers were baffled by von Neumann's mid-career transition from pure mathematics to applied mathematics. They believed that a talent of his caliber should focus on pure mathematics. Von Neumann argued forcefully for the importance of applied mathematics in an essay for James Newman's The World of Mathematics, 1956. He commended the reinvigorating effect of some underlying empirical, worldly pattern in mathematics and warned that a mathematical subject is in danger of degeneration at a great distance from its empirical source, or after extensive abstract inbreeding. Von Neumann likely had more impact on the modern world than any other mathematician in the 20th century, thanks to his contributions to quantum theory, the atomic bomb, and the computer. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button for more content like this. See you in next video.